Hey everyone, welcome to the online program of Amrita IAS Academy. My name is Sibi Joy, and as part of our monthly current affairs MCQ series, this is part 2A of July 2020. So without any delay, we'll go into the first question. Consider the following statements about the Zardosi. 1. This art was patronized by the Mughals. 2. This art involves weaving with metallic threads on fabric to create intricate patterns. 3. Lucknow Zardosi is accorded with the geographical indication tag. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D all of the above. So looking at this question, the Lucknow Zardosi was the current affair which was present in the news recently, and we will also be learning about the GI tags as part of our economy syllabus for civil service preparation. So taking that into account, I can definitely say that since the Lucknow Zardosi was recently present in the news, I can choose that the third statement is absolutely right. So taking that into account, I can say that option A 1 and 2 only and option B 2 only is eliminated since the third statement is not present in them. So now we managed to make a 50-50 elimination to it. Now the only question is on the second statement, because the options left are 1 and 3 only and all of the above. So looking at the second statement, this art involves weaving with metallic threads on fabric to create intricate patterns. That is actually the description of the Zardosi fabric. So taking this into account, I can say that the option D all of the above is right. So even if you don't know about it, you can take this explanation as an opportunity to learn about this. Let's go for the explanation. The answer is D. Statement 1 is correct because Zardosi, an art patronized by the Mughals that involves weaving metallic threads on fabric to create intricate patterns. It has existed in India since the time of the Rig Veda between 1500 and 1200 BC. It prospered during the 17th century during the reign of the Mughal Emperor Akbar, but later a loss of royal patronage and industrialization led to its decline. The second statement is correct because Zardosi is a type of heavy and elaborate metal embroidery on silk, satin or velvet fabric base. The third statement is also correct because Zardosi is popular in the Indian cities of Lucknow, Farrukhabad, Chennai and Bhopal. In 2013, the Geographical Indication Registry GIR accorded GI status or registration to the Lucknow Zardosi. With GI status, Zardosi artisans, distributors and retailers in Lucknow and the 6 surrounding districts of Barabanki, Unnao, Sitapur, Rai Bareli, Hardoi and Amethi can become authorized users of the Lucknow Zardosi brand and carry a unique mark of authenticity. So that is the explanation for the Zardosi and the recently given GI tag to Lucknow Zardosi. So we will go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the minimum support price or MSP. First statement, Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices CACP announces MSP for various crops at the beginning of each sowing season. 2. Demand and supply, the cost of production and price trends in the market are taken into account for fixing MSPs. 3. Trends in MSP impact the availability of key food crops and food inflation. 4. Pulses and oilseeds are not covered under the MSPs. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1, 3 and 4 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1, 2 and 3 only, and option D all of the above. So looking at this, I'd like to take the fourth statement. Pulses and oilseeds are not covered under the MSP, or they do not come under the minimum support price program. That is wrong because many pulses and oilseeds do come under the MSP program. We'll be learning about the MSP. It is a part of your main syllabus. We'll always be learning about it in the agriculture syllabus. So I can definitely say that the fourth statement is wrong. Even if you are not aware about it, this is an opportunity to learn. So taking that the fourth statement is wrong, we are left with again two options. Option B 2 and 3 only, and option C 1, 2 and 3. Option A and option D have been eliminated. So now we managed to make a 50-50 elimination and brought the options down to just 2 options. Taking that into account, I can say the second and third statement are absolutely right because they are present for both the options. That is, demand and supply, the cost of production, price trends in the market are taken into account for fixing MSPs. Trends in MSP impact the availability of key food crops and food inflation. Now the only question is on the first statement. Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices announces MSP for various crops at the beginning of each sowing season. Yes, the Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices is related to the MSP, but it is not this commission which announces the prices, but rather they give the recommendation to the government which announces the prices. So I can say that the first statement is also wrong. The CACP just recommends the prices, whereas it is announced by the government. So taking that into account, I can say the option B 2 and 3 only is the right answer. We'll go for the explanation. Statement 1 is not correct because in theory an MSP is the minimum price set by the government at which farmers can expect to sell their produce for the season. When market prices fall below the announced MSPs, procurement agencies step in to procure the crop and support the prices. The Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs, it's the CCEA, the Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs, announces MSP for various crops at the beginning of each sowing season based on the recommendations of the CACP. The second statement, the CACP takes into account demand and supply, the cost of production and the price trends in the market among other things when fixing MSPs. The third statement, trends in MSP impact the availability of key food crops and food inflation. MSP is also a good tool to ensure that farmers produce what is most lucrative for them given consumer demand. The fourth statement is not correct because there are nearly 20 plus crops that have an MSP announced for them every year before the beginning of the Kharif and Rabi seasons. Gram, tur, urad, moong and lentil under pulses and cereals and oilseeds also have official MSPs. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. In context of Eulophia obtusa or ground orchid, consider the following statements. It has been rediscovered in India after 118 years in Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. Second, it has been listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List of Endangered Species. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, both 1 and 2, and option D, none of the above. So, Eulophia obtusa was also present in the current affairs recently. Then there have been many new species rediscovered or discovered for the first time. Taking that into account, we must always be aware of them and see where they are found, what kind of a plant or what kind of an animal it is, and the location in which it is found. So, Eulophia obtusa was rediscovered in India after 118 years in Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. That is a fact, and it has been listed as critically endangered because of its rarity of its presence in India and the other parts of the world. So, taking that into account, I can say the options both 1 and 2 are the right answer. Let's go for the explanation. Statement 1 and 2 are correct because a rare orchid species known as the Eulophia obtusa, also known as the ground orchid, has been rediscovered in India after 118-year hiatus in Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. In India, the species listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List of Endangered Species was last recorded in Pilibhit in 1902. The species was originally described from Uttarakhand in the 19th century. It was collected by botanists from the Gangetic Plains, but there have been no sightings in the past 100 years. In 2008, the plant species was sighted in Bangladesh for the first time. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. In context of the Seabed 2030 project, consider the following statements. 1. It is a project by the International Seabed Authority. 2. It aims to bring together all available bathymetric data to produce the definitive map of the world ocean floor by 2030 and make it available to all. Choose the correct code. Option A, 1 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, both 1 and 2. And option D, none of the above. So this question is about the Seabed 2030 project, and the two statements are with regards to this. So the second statement is actually right, even though it may have the absolute keyword saying all available bathymetric data to produce the definitive map and make it available to all. So even though it has the keyword all, please understand that the Seabed 2030 project has such an objective where it aims to bring together all available bathymetric data and make it available for all. So since that is the idea, we must know that the second statement is right. But the first statement, it is a project by the International Seabed Authority. No, it is not a project by the International Seabed Authority. The International Seabed Authority is a completely different organization which deals with different things. So I can say that the option B, 2 only is the right answer. We'll look at the explanation and see who is involved in this. Statement 1 is not correct because the Seabed 2030 is a collaborative project between the Nippon Foundation of Japan and the General Bathymetric Chart of the Oceans, or GEBCO. Statement 2 is correct because it aims to bring together all available bathymetric data to produce the definitive map of the world ocean floor by 2030 and make it available to all. The project was launched at the UN Ocean Conference in June 2017 and is aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 14 to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources. Knowing the depth and the shape of the ocean of the seafloor or the bathymetry is fundamental for understanding ocean circulation, tides, tsunami forecasting, fishing resources, sediment transport, environmental change, underwater geohazards, cable and pipeline routing, mineral extraction, oil and gas exploration development, infrastructure construction, maintenance and much more. So despite many years of effort, only less than 20% of the world's ocean seafloor has been mapped. So a coordinated international effort is needed to bring together all existing data sets and to identify areas for future surveys to help us map the gaps. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. The World Drug Report is published by which of the following agencies? A. United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. B. Interpol. C. Financial Action Task Force. And D. International Drug Association. So looking at this type of question, like I said, it's a ABCD type of question. and the key demand of the question is World Drug Report. So looking at the options available, I can say the option A has the word drugs in it, the option D has the word drug in it, and the Interpol and the Financial Action Task Force may have some logic, but option A and D seem much more related towards the World Drug Report. Taking this into account, I can say that it's either option A or option D. So the World Drug Report has already been present in the news, and we've been actually reading about it consistently, and we know that the answer is actually United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So for those who are not aware, it is necessary that you understand which are the major organizations which publish major reports, and what is the key findings of the report, or what are the major developments which are provided in the report. That is the idea behind reading about the reports and reading about the organizations which publish them. So the World Drug Report is actually published by the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. We'll look at the explanation. The answer is for A. The fourth highest seizure of opium in 2018 was reported from India after Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan, according to the latest World Drug Report of the UNODC. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or the UNFCCC. Number 1, it aims to stabilize greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere and prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. 2, it sets binding limits on greenhouse gas emissions for individual countries through an enforcement mechanism. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D none of the above. So looking at these two statements, I can say it's about the UNFCCC, which is a very important convention on climate change. We'll be learning about it as part of our environment syllabus for both prelims and mains during our civil service preparation. So one idea, the first statement is actually right with regards to UNFCCC. It aims to stabilize greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere and prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. But the second statement, it sets binding limits on greenhouse gas emissions for individual countries through an enforcement mechanism. It does not set a binding limit. It is very clear that it does not set a binding limit, but rather just provides a framework. So taking that into account, I can say that the option A, that is 1 only, is the right answer. Look at the explanation. Statement 1 is correct because the UNFCCC is an international environment treaty adopted on 9th of May 1992 and opened for signature at the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro from 3rd to 14th June 1992. It then entered into force on 21st March of 1994 after a sufficient number of countries had ratified it. The UNFCCC objective is to stabilize greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. The second statement is not correct because it sets non-binding limits on greenhouse gas emissions for individual countries and contains no enforcement mechanisms. Instead, the framework outlines how specific international treaties called protocols or agreements may be negotiated to further specify action towards the objective of the UNFCCC. So it says that it is not binding, but it just provides a framework on how certain protocols and agreements may be framed towards controlling the greenhouse gas emission. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the National Ganga River Basin Authority, or the NGRBA. 1. It is a financing, planning, implementing, monitoring and coordinating authority for the Ganges River. 2. It functions under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. 3. It was established under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D all of the above. So the National Ganga River Basin Authority is one of the very important authorities which deals with the protection and the sustainable use of the river Ganges. So taking this into account, we can say that this is something we'll be learning as part of our environment syllabus both for prelims and mains for your civil service preparation. And while learning about the NGRBA or any government organization or authority, we'll always be learning about it comes under which ministry or whether it is a statutory body or not. So looking at this, I can definitely say it does not come under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, even though earlier it was under that, but presently it is under the Ministry of Jal Shakti. So taking that into account, I can say let's remove the second statement from the options. If you remove the second statement from the options, you are left with just one statement, which is option C 1 and 3 only. So the first statement and the third statement are absolutely right. It is established under the Environment Protection Act of 1986 and it does act as the financing, planning, implementing, monitoring and coordinating authority for the Ganges River. So let's go for the explanation. Statement 1 is correct and the answer is C. National NGRBA is a financing, planning, implementing, monitoring and coordinating authority for the Ganges River. The second statement is not correct because in July 2014, the NGRBA has been transferred from the Ministry of Environment to the Ministry of Jal Shakti, and therefore it now functions under the Ministry of Jal Shakti. The third statement is correct because it was established by the Central Government of India on 20th of February 2009 under Section 3.3 of the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, which also declares the Ganges as the national river of India. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, or the CDSCO. 1. It is a government regulatory agency that controls the prices of pharmaceutical drugs in India. 2. It is an attached office of the Department of Pharmaceuticals, DOP, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. And 3. Under the Drug and Cosmetic Act, CDSO is responsible for conducting clinical trials of critical drugs and vaccine. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 1 only, option C 2 and 3 only, option D 3 only. So looking at this question, I can say that the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, it is a government regulatory agency, but it does not control the prices of pharmaceutical drugs because there is a different agency which deals with control of the pharmaceutical drugs and its price control. So I can say it is not the Central Drug Standard Control Organization which is dealing with the price control of the pharmaceutical drugs. So taking that into account, I can say that the first statement is wrong. If the first statement is wrong, we are left with just two options, option C and option D, which is 2 and 3 only and 3 only. Automatically the third statement becomes right. Let's look at the second statement. It is an attached office of the Department of Pharmaceuticals, DOP, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, but the Central Drug Standard Control Organization would not come under the Department of Pharmaceuticals because they are looking at the standard control, or the how the drugs are supposed to be manufactured and how they are supposed to interact with the body. So they look at the standard of the drugs used. So I can say that either it can come under the Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer or it can come under the Ministry of Family and Health Welfare. So taking that into account, I can say it's a 50-50 choice, but anyway I would go with the option D, which is 3 only. Let's look at the explanation. The answer is D. Statement 1 is not correct because the CDSCO is the national regulatory body for Indian pharmaceuticals and medical devices, whereas the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, the NPPA, is a government regulatory agency that controls the prices of pharmaceutical drugs in India. The second statement is not correct because the NPPA is an attached office of the DOP, Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, and it's an independent regulator for pricing of drugs and to ensure availability and accessibility of medicine at affordable prices. But the CDSO is a different body, and the Drug Controller General of India, or the DCGI, regulates the pharmaceutical, medical devices, and it comes under the gamut of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The third statement is correct because the major function of the CDSO is under the Drug and Cosmetic Act of 1940, and the main function is regulatory control over the import of drugs, approval of new drugs and conduct of clinical trials, meeting of drug consultative committees and drug technical advisory boards, approval of certain licenses as the central license approving authority is exercised by the CDSCO headquarters. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. In context of SDG Index 2020, consider the following statements. 1. It frames the implementation of SDG goals among UN member states in terms of education and skills, health and well-being, clean energy and industry, and digital technology. 2. It is prepared by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Choose the correct code. Option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D none of the above. So the question is about SDG Index 2020, and the first statement is actually right because it frames the implementation of SDG goals among the UN members on various terms of education, skills, health, well-being, clean energy, industry, and digital technologies. And it is also prepared by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. So both the statements are actually right. We'll be learning about it. Let's go for the explanation. Answer is C. The statement 1 is correct because the SDG index frames the implementation of 17 SDG goals among the UN member states in terms of 6 broad transformations: education and skills, health and well-being, clean energy and industry, and sustainable land use, sustainable cities, and digital technologies. The second statement is also correct because it is prepared by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs with input from international and regional organizations and the United Nations system of agencies, funds, and programs. Several national statisticians, experts from civil society, and academia also contribute to this report. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. What is CATSA sometimes seen in news? A. United States federal law that imposed sanctions on Iran, North Korea and Russia. B. Agreement on the Iranian nuclear program. C. Pair of agreements between the government of Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. D. Peace agreement that prevents Afghanistan from once again becoming a haven for international terrorism. So CATSA has been in the news frequently over the past few news cycles. I can definitely say, if you have read the newspaper, you would definitely know that it is a United States federal law that imposed sanctions on Iran, North Korea and Russia. We'll look at the explanation. The answer is A. And the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, or CATSA, is a law passed by the US Congress in 2017 with an aim to counter the aggression by Iran, Russia and North Korea through punitive measures. It specifically aims to impose sanctions on Russian oil and gas, defense, security and financial sectors over its military invasion in Ukraine and alleged meddling in the 2016 US presidential election. It is a United States federal law that imposed sanctions on Iran, North Korea and Russia. So we've learned what is CATSA. It deals with the United States and its adversaries like Iran, Russia and North Korea. So taking that into account, we've read this explanation. We'll go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, or the FCRA. Number 1. Employee of any corporation or any other body controlled or owned by the government cannot accept foreign contribution. 2. Donations given by non-resident Indians, NRIs, are treated as foreign contribution. 3. NGOs can use the foreign contributions for investment in mutual funds and other speculative investments. Select the correct answer using the given below code. Option A 1 only, option B 2 and 3 only, option C 1 and 3 only, and option D all of the above. So looking at this, let's take the second statement. Donations given by non-resident Indians or NRIs are treated as foreign contribution. Generally, donations and deposits by NRIs are not treated as foreign contributions. So let's remove the second statement from the list of options. When you remove the second statement, you are left with option A 1 only and option C 1 and 3 only. So automatically the first statement becomes right. Let's look at the third statement. NGOs can use a foreign contribution for investment in mutual funds and other speculative investments. The purpose behind this for giving the money to NGOs is not for investment in mutual funds. So that is generally not allowed. That seems highly illogical, because if NGOs can use that to tap the market. So since that is wrong, or that seems highly irregular in this case, I would say the third statement is wrong. Let's go for option A 1 only as the right answer. We'll go for the explanation. The answer is A. Statement 1 is correct, because as defined in section 3(1) of the FCRA 2010, foreign contribution cannot be accepted by any, that is a candidate for election, correspondent, columnist, cartoonist, editor, owner, printer or publisher of a registered newspaper, judge or a government servant or employee of any corporation or other body controlled or owned by the government, members of legislature, political party or office bearer, organization of a political nature as may be specified under the relevant sections of the central government, association or company which is engaged in the production or broadcast of audio, news or any other form of display through electronic mode or other electronic form as defined under the IT Act of 2000, correspondent or columnist, cartoonist, editor, owner or association of company are referred as in clause G, and these are the people who cannot take the foreign contribution. Looking at the second statement, contributions by NRI from his or her personal savings through normal banking channels is not treated as foreign contribution. However, while accepting any such donations, it is advisable to obtain the passport details to ascertain that they are a genuine Indian passport holder. And the third statement is not correct, because NGOs cannot use the foreign contributions for investment in mutual funds and other speculative investments. So that is the explanation for this question. Let's go for the next question. Consider the following statements about the Agri Infra Fund. Number 1, the government has set up this fund with a corpus of rupees 1 lakh crore. 2, it will be used to provide financial support to agri entrepreneurs, startups, agri-tech players and farmer groups for infrastructure and logistic facilities. 3, it will be managed and monitored through an online management information system, or the MIS platform. Which of the above mentioned statements are correct? Option A 1 and 2 only, option B 2 and 3 only, and option C 1 and 3 only, and option D all of the above. So looking at the Agri Infra Fund, all these three statements seem right. Maybe you can have a doubt in the amount of money which is being given. That is, the government has set up this fund with a corpus of rupees 1 lakh crores. But since it talks about agriculture, and agriculture is something which is very important for a country like India, where the majority of the poor population is involved in agriculture, that amount seems logical. So we can say that the government has set up this fund with a corpus of rupees 1 lakh crore, and the purpose is to provide financial support to so many people like agri entrepreneurs, startups, agri-tech players and farmer groups for infrastructure and logistics. So that statement also seems right. And it will be managed and monitored through an online management information system. Yes, that also seems logical. There seems to be a lack of illogical references in this question. So I'd like to say that the answer would be most probably D, all of the above. The answer is D. Statement 1 and 2 are correct because the government has approved setting up of an agri-infra fund with a corpus of rupees 1 lakh crore to provide financial support to agri-entrepreneurs, startups, agri-tech players and farmer groups for infrastructure and logistic facilities. It was a part of the 20 lakh crore stimulus package announced in response to the COVID-19 crisis. This new fund, which will have a duration of 10 years till 2029, will aim to provide medium to long-term debt financing facility for investment in viable projects for post-harvest management, infrastructure and community farming assets. Under this, nearly 1 lakh crore will be provided by banks and other financial institutions as loans to various agri-credit societies, farmer groups, farmer producer organizations, entrepreneurs, startups and agri-tech players. The third statement is correct because the agri fund will be managed and monitored through an online MIS platform. It will enable all the qualified entities to apply for loan under the fund. The online platform will also provide benefits such as transparency of interest rates offered by multiple banks, scheme details including interest subvention, credit guarantee offered, minimum documentation, faster approval process as also integration with other scheme benefits. So that is the explanation for this question. With this, we'll be ending part 2A of our video. This is CB Joy signing off. Thank you.